Grand Old Duke of York, a much-loved nursery rhyme, goes back to the 16th century. Apparently there's a Dutch version as well. Key signature, 1 sharp, G major. Look, we finish on a G, definitely G major. 1 sharp, F sharp, it's got to be F sharp. The order of sharps as they appear in key signatures is F, C, G, D, A, E, B. Father Charles goes down and ends battle. I'll say that again slowly. Father Charles goes down and ends battle. It's the opposite to the order of flats. Battle ends and down goes Charles' father. So if you've got 1 sharp, it's got to be F sharp. There it is on the top line in the stave. Treble clef. And the time signature is what's known as cut common. Common time is exactly the same as 4/4. It's called common time because it is the most common time signature. This one is cut common. It's got a line through the C. There is no difference between common time and 4/4. It's just a different way of writing the same thing. 4/4, 4 crotchets in the bar. Top figure tells you the number of beats in the bar. The lower figure tells you the type of beat. So 4 at the top means 4 beats in the bar. 4 at the bottom refers to a crotchet, or as our American friends say, quarter notes, which kind of makes sense. Common time is exactly the same thing. Cut common is common time, but it implies quite a brisk tempo so that you're almost counting minims, like 2 minims to a bar. So cut common is a little bit like 2/2, 2 minims to a bar. This tune starts halfway through a bar, so the pickup here is the equivalent to half a bar, but we won't be counting. Well, depends how fast we're going to go. If we're going slowly for practice purposes, we'll probably count every crotchet 1, 2, 3, 4, but when we're going at full tempo, we'll probably just count minims 1, 2, 1, 2, and 1, 2, 1. So in this short lesson we've got 5 versions of this tune at 5 different tempos. 60 minims to the minute, 66 minims to the minute, 76 minims to the minute, 90 minims to the minute, and 100 minims to the minute. So quite a variation there, but most beginners will need to start practicing this at the slowest tempo, which is 60 minims to the minute, or 1 minim per second. You've got 4 bars introduction. 1, 2, 1, and 2, and 1. You've got a few slurs in here, but only pairs of notes. So you tongue the first note here, but not this one. So ta, 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 not ta, 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 but ta, ta. 2 notes slurred there, 2 notes slurred there. Now, before you start, during the introduction, take an enormous breath. Don't just sit there waiting for your entry. During the introduction, concentrate on getting as much air into your lungs as you can. You're going to have to take a little sniff every now and then as you go along, but the more air you set off with at the beginning, the more chance you have of getting through to the end without any disasters. Now, you may have to breathe, when you're playing very slowly, you may have to breathe every 2 bars, but that's okay. La da dee da dee da da. 3 beats here, so you could breathe there. Try and touch the 3rd beat if you can, and just sniff after you've reached the 3rd beat. Dee da 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 dee da 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 dee da 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 dee dum 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 da da dum da da dum da da dee da da dum dim da da dum da da dee dum dim da da dum da da dee dum dim da da dum 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 da da dee da da dee. Off. And this is a minim, not a crotchet. In fact, the instrumental arrangement, they touch down on the 3rd beat of the bar here. So if you want to be really cool, just linger on this note until the instruments in the instrumental track have struck the 3rd note. I think the bass line goes rump bum bum, and to be absolutely precise, this note should come off with the last player's bomb. Bomb 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 off. Most of the notes that you play in this should be slightly detached, but that's not to say that we want the whole thing chopped up into tiny pieces, but very, very little contact between one note and the next. Ti ta ta ti ta 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 ta, not ti ta 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 ta, but just lightly staccato, as if you were singing the words. If you were singing the words, the grand old Duke of York, he had 10,000 men. Most of the time, between the words, at the start of words, at the end of words, we get consonants. So when we're playing our instruments, we imitate the spoken word or the sung word in as much as part of our notes can be regarded as a consonant, the start of the note, and the body of the note itself we can think of as the vowel. So when we're playing a tune like this, we imitate the speech patterns in as much as we divide our sound into consonants and vowels. So we have to be careful that we don't get too much consonant and not enough vowel. But at the same time, if you were to play this very, very legato, it would sound a bit ridiculous. Especially when you got faster. So you need to find a happy medium between slightly detached and legato, but in any case with a soft tongue. So the thing to avoid is chopping it up into lots of one-note sized pieces. Even though the notes are very, very slightly separated from each other, just brushing up against each other, you might be able to detect a tiny bit of separation between the notes. The separation, to a certain extent, is an illusion, because if you shape the notes, if each note has a slight diminuendo or decrescendo on it, if each note gets slightly quieter, it's debatable, for example, whether this note has completely stopped before you strike this note. So have a good think about this. Listen to the demonstration. You'll hear on the demonstration the shape of the notes changes slightly with the tempo. What some of you might find useful is when you get two quavers next door to each other, like this, ta-taka, you might like to try double tonguing. Instead of saying ta-ta on the quavers, try saying ta-ka. Ta-taka-ta-taka-ta, ta-taka-ta-taka-ta. It might help you. I suggest, if you want to try double tonguing, work your way up through the different tempos till you get to the point where your single tonguing is struggling to get round the quavers, and then go back to the slower tempo and try double tonguing the pairs of quavers. Let's see where they are. There's a pair there, there's a pair here, a pair there, here, and so on. Ta-taka-ta-taka-ta, ta-taka-ta-taka-ta. You don't have to change the fingering, so this is quite a good place to start practicing double tonguing. Anyway, work through slowly first with the slow tempo. Go through fingers only at the slowest tempo. Check out your breathing every 2 bars. As the tempo increases, you might manage every 4 bars. Steal as little time from these last notes in the phrases as you possibly can. We don't want massive great gaps between the last note of one phrase and the first note of the next phrase. Try and reduce the gap. If you're going to breathe here, try and reduce the gap between this note and that note to the smallest you can possibly manage. As I said before, take a whopping great breath before you start, and that will give you the momentum to carry you through to the end. And when you get to these places here, you will only need to take a very, very minimal sniff between this note and that note, for example, just to give you a little bit of a boost. 60, 66, 76, 90 and 100. I suggest you try each tempo at least 5 times, before you move on to the next tempo. And If you have to play the same thing 20 times, 30 times, 40 times before you get it right, that's what you have to do. But that's what musicians do. That's perfectly normal to have to repeat something over and over again. Of course, each time you try to do it a little better than you did last time. Try and be a little more successful than you have been up till then. You need to concentrate, and nothing is easy. So if you're finding it a struggle, that's perfectly normal. Even the best musicians have to struggle. Good luck.